Witness this. January 17, 1468. Gjergj Fortress, northern Albania. A man tries to stand. He's 61 years old, fever burning through him, and his legs buckle before he's halfway up. His officers catch him under the arms, ease him back onto the furs piled on his bed. He fights them for a moment. Actually fights them, trying to shove their hands away. But his strength is gone. The effort leaves him gasping, sweat soaking through his shirt despite the January cold coming through the narrow window. His name is Gjergj Kastrioti. The Ottomans knew him as Scanderbeg. History calls him Scanderbeg. For 25 years, he's held this fortress against 3 sultans, won 13 pitched battles, and never once been defeated in the field. He's beaten armies 10 times the size of his own, turned Ottoman tactics against their creators, and made the greatest empire on earth bleed itself white trying to kill him. And now he's dying, not from Ottoman steel, not from siege or ambush or any of the 1,000 ways he should have died. From fever, probably malaria, the same disease that kills peasants and beggars. In the corner of the room, his helmet sits on a wooden stand, the famous one with the goat horns. It's just an object now, watching its owner break. His son stands near the door, John, 12 years old, too young to command, too young to inherit anything except his father's enemies. The boy's face is blank. He's watching the weapon that held an empire at bay try and fail to get out of bed. Outside the window, you can see the coastal plain below, where Scanderbeg fought most of his battles. Not a single Ottoman banner in sight. He's never lost this fortress. Never. 4 major sieges, including one where Mehmed II himself, the man who conquered Constantinople, threw 100,000 men at these walls and quit after 7 months. This mountain is unconquerable. But the man who made it unconquerable is suffocating in his own bed. This wasn't a heroic ending. This was math catching up. Before we dive into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy the hidden truths of history, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. To understand why this single death will unravel everything he built in less than a decade, you have to understand what Scanderbeg actually was. Not what the legend says, not the simplified version they teach school children. What he really was. Here's what you've heard. Albanian freedom fighter, mountain guerrilla, peasant warrior king who beat the Turks with clever tactics and terrain, a David who slew Goliath, a crusader who defended Christian Europe from the Ottoman tide. Here's the problem. All of that is propaganda designed for people who don't ask uncomfortable questions. Because Scanderbeg wasn't a guerrilla, he was an Ottoman general, one of their best. For 15 years he served the empire he would later fight. He commanded cavalry units. He led campaigns in Serbia and Hungary. The Sultan called him "my brave son," and meant it. His military education didn't come from mountain villages or defensive warfare. It came from the most sophisticated military machine on the planet, learned from the inside during its prime. His Ottoman name was Scanderbeg, Alexander the Lord. They gave him land grants, command positions. He wasn't enslaved in the way we think of slavery. He was being groomed for power, and he was good at it. Really good. The records show a man rising through the ranks, winning battles, earning trust. Then in 1443, he defected, forged an imperial decree, rode 300 kilometers under false colors, and used Ottoman bureaucracy to steal back his father's fortress. But here's what matters. Every single tactic he used to destroy the Ottomans over the next 25 years, he learned while serving them. The ambush doctrine, the false retreats, the use of terrain to neutralize superior numbers, the psychological warfare. He didn't invent a new way of fighting. He turned their own playbook against them with surgical precision. This is why they spent a quarter century trying to kill him. It wasn't about Albania. It was personal. He knew how they thought. He knew their standard responses. He'd been in their war councils. Imagine the best general your enemy has suddenly taking everything he learned and using it to butcher your armies. That's Scanderbeg. The Ottomans didn't just lose a talented officer when he defected. They created their own worst nightmare. And here's the part that makes his death in 1468 so catastrophic. He didn't build anything that could survive him. No institutions, no successor state, no trained command structure. Just a coalition of Albanian nobles held together by his personal reputation and their shared fear of what happens if they don't cooperate. The League of Liege, they called it. On paper, it sounds impressive. In practice, it's a room full of warlords who hate each other, barely agreeing to follow Scanderbeg because he's the only one who keeps winning. So when he dies, the entire resistance dies with him. It's not even a slow collapse. Within 11 years, every fortress falls, every alliance breaks, and Albania becomes fully Ottoman. Everything he fought for, gone. Because he built a cult of personality instead of a country. But that's jumping ahead. Because to understand how one man held off an empire for 25 years, you need to understand what he was actually fighting. And the answer is worse than you think. 3 armies, not 1. 3, at the same time. First, the Ottoman Empire. East and South, the largest military power in the world, with functionally unlimited resources and a bureaucratic machine that can absorb catastrophic defeats and keep coming. Between 1443 and 1468, they send roughly 15 major expeditions against him, armies ranging from 20,000 to over 100,000 men. 3 different sultans personally invest in his death. Murad II besieges Gjergj in 1450, with enough men to surround the fortress completely and still have reserves. When that fails, his son Mehmed, the conqueror, the man who broke Constantinople, tries again, twice. This isn't a regional police action. This is existential for them. A trained Ottoman officer who defected and started winning is a crack in the entire imperial system. If Scanderbeg succeeds, every Christian province starts wondering if they can do the same thing. Second, Venice. West, controlling the coastal cities and Adriatic shipping. You'd think they'd be natural allies, Christian Republic versus Muslim Empire. Except Venice doesn't care about Christianity when there's money involved. They want Albanian ports. They want trade monopolies. Sometimes they support Scanderbeg when it's convenient. Sometimes they fight him directly. In 1447 and 1448, they go to war with him over control of Dagenham. Think of Venice as the ally who keeps threatening to withhold support unless you give them economic concessions, which is what they are. Scanderbeg needs their supplies, their ships, their diplomatic cover with the Pope. But they know that, so they squeeze him. Every treaty is a negotiation where he's bleeding, and they're calculating profit margins. Third, his own people. The Albanian nobles who pledged to support him but keep betraying him when it's convenient. Moisi Golemi defects to the Ottomans in 1462, takes his forces with him, guides Ottoman armies through Albanian territory. Gjergj Balsha defects in 1465. These aren't minor figures. These are core members of the League. And it's not just defection. It's constant political maneuvering, land disputes, refusal to send troops when he needs them. Every battle, he has to calculate not just Ottoman movements, but which of his own allies might stab him. So, picture this. You're fighting an empire that wants you dead, a republic that wants to exploit you, and a coalition that might betray you at any moment. You have no reliable supply lines because Venice controls the coast and the Ottomans control the interior. You can't trust your allies to show up. You can't build fortifications everywhere because you don't have the manpower or resources. Every victory costs men you can't replace. Every defeat ends everything. That's not a heroic last stand. That's a mathematical death spiral. Most generals facing a two-front war collapse. Scanderbeg faces 3 fronts and wins anyway, for 25 years. The scale of that is almost incomprehensible. This is one man, no dynasty, no bureaucracy, no standing professional army, holding off 3 separate strategic threats simultaneously while never losing a pitched battle. 13 major engagements, 13 victories. Battle of Torviol in 1444. He destroys an Ottoman army of 25,000 with maybe 8,000 men. Battle of Albulina in 1457. He crushes 80,000 Ottomans with 15,000 troops. The sieges of Kruja in 1450 and 1466. He outlasts massive Ottoman siege armies through sheer defensive brilliance and the empire's logistical incompetence. But here's what the victories don't show: the cost. By the 1460s, Albania is depopulated, fields burned repeatedly, villages abandoned, trade collapsed. The people who aren't dead are fleeing to Italy. Scanderbeg is winning battles and losing the country. Because you can't eat glory, you can't rebuild with tactical genius. And every victory just means the Ottomans come back angrier with a bigger army. It's not sustainable. Everyone around him knows it's not sustainable. But he's the only one who can keep it going, so he does. Campaign after campaign, siege after siege, into his 50s, into his 60s, until his body gives out. His last campaign is in 1467. He's 60 years old, sick with fever, and he still leads the army personally, because if he doesn't, his allies will assume he's dying and start negotiating with the Ottomans behind his back, which is exactly what they're planning to do. He knows it. They know he knows it. But as long as he's physically present, leading, winning, they stay loyal. The moment he shows weakness, it's over. So he pushes himself, rides when he should be resting, commands when he should be delegating, and the fever gets worse. But he keeps going because stopping means death, not for him personally, for the entire resistance. He's not a king who can pass authority to a competent heir. His son is 12. His coalition is held together by personal charisma and fear. If he stops, the machine stops. In late 1467, he returns to Kruja after lifting yet another siege. He doesn't leave the fortress again. The fever is too strong now. His officers try to convince him to rest, to let someone else handle the next campaign. But there is no someone else. The Venetians won't commit real support. The Pope sends letters and prayers, but no armies. The Albanian nobles are already calculating which Ottoman terms they'll accept when Scanderbeg dies, and on January 17th, 1468, he does, in bed. In the fortress, he never lost. The weapon that held an empire at bay for a quarter century breaks not from Ottoman steel, but from a disease that doesn't care about tactics or reputation, or 13 undefeated battles. His last words, or at least what survivors remember as his last words, are simple: hold Kruja, whatever it takes. They don't. Within 11 years, the fortress falls. The League collapses. Albania becomes Ottoman. It'll stay that way for 4 centuries. But to understand how he became this impossible thing, a one-man strategic weapon who could face 3 armies at once and win, you need to go back to the beginning, to 1423, to a 9-year-old boy being taken from his father's fortress by Ottoman officials, not as a prisoner, as an investment. because the Ottomans had a system for turning conquered children into perfect soldiers, and it worked better than any weapon they ever forged. They called it the devshirme, the blood tax, and Gjergj Kastrioti, the boy who would become Skanderbeg, was about to enter the machine that would teach him everything he'd need to destroy them. Here's what we tell ourselves about the devshirme: child slavery, kidnapping, the Ottomans stealing Christian boys and brainwashing them into Muslim soldiers, victims torn from their families, forced to fight for the enemy, their identities erased. Here's what actually happens, and it's worse because it works. The devshirme isn't slavery in the way slavery usually functions, extraction of labor through brutality and chains. It's social engineering. The empire identifies the best genetic material in its conquered territories, takes it young enough to reshape, and transforms it into the ruling class. Not the bottom, the top. Grand viziers come from the devshirme, military governors, elite janissary units, palace administrators. These boys don't get beaten into submission. They get turned into something their birth could never have given them: power, and the parents know it. That's the part we don't want to admit. When Ottoman officials arrive to collect boys from Christian families, some mothers hide their sons, but others push them forward, because a Christian peasant boy in Albania or Serbia or Greece has one future: farming his father's land until he dies. But a devshirme recruit, if he's smart, if he's competent, if he survives the training, he can command armies at 25. He can govern provinces. He can sit in councils where empires are remade. The empire doesn't want to break these boys. It wants to harvest them. And for a century and a half, it works better than any recruitment system in Europe. Gjergj, 1423. Ottoman officials in the courtyard. Not an invasion force, a collection team. They're here under legal authority. Gjergj Kastrioti, Lord of Gjergj, swore fealty to Sultan Murad II 2 years earlier after the Ottomans crushed Serbian resistance at the Battle of Kosovo. That oath came with terms: annual tribute, military support when requested, and sons for the devshirme when the collectors arrive. Gjergj has 4 sons. The officials take all 4. The oldest is maybe 15. The youngest, Gjergj, is 9. Small for his age, dark hair, watching everything with the kind of intensity that makes adults uncomfortable. He doesn't cry when they call his name, doesn't resist. He looks at his father once. Gjergj's face is stone. Has to be. Showing emotion here is showing weakness, and weakness invites renegotiation of terms. Worse terms. Gjergj puts a hand on Gjergj's shoulder, squeezes once. That's it. That's the goodbye. The gate closes behind the boys. Gjergj looks back once, the fortress on its mountain spine, the only home he's known. Then he turns forward, keeps walking. His brothers are ahead of him on the road. 2 of them are crying. One is silent like Gjergj. That one won't survive the training. Too rigid, too angry. The ones who cry might. Emotion is adaptive. Rage is a liability. The march east takes weeks, through Macedonia, past Skopje, down into Thrace. The boys sleep in caravanserais, fed adequately. They're valuable cargo, not prisoners. Ottoman logistics don't waste resources. At night, Gjergj listens to his brothers talk about escape, about getting home, about their father coming to rescue them. He doesn't say anything, because he's already counting. How many guards? How many days to the border? What happens if they run and get caught? The math doesn't work. So he watches, learns the guards' rotation schedule, learns which ones are cruel and which ones are just doing a job. learns that asking questions in broken Turkish gets you better treatment than sullen silence. By the time they reach Adrianople, Edirne, the Ottoman capital before Constantinople falls, Gjergj has learned 17 words of Turkish and identified which of his brothers is going to die first. The angry silent one. Too much pride, not enough adaptation. He's right. That brother dies in the second year. Disease, officially, but really it's refusal. The body can only sustain resistance for so long before it starts consuming itself. Adrianople, the Enderun Palace School, not a prison. An institution designed to manufacture excellence. Hundreds of boys, all Christian-born, all being processed through a system that's been refined over generations. The first week is assessment. Reading, languages, physical capability, mathematical reasoning, memory retention. The instructors watch everything. Who leads, who follows, who solves problems, who breaks under pressure. Gjergj doesn't lead, doesn't break. He watches the boys who lead, learns what they do right and what gets them punished. He watches the boys who break, learns what triggers collapse. He stays in the middle of the pack, competent but not threatening, adaptive but not servile. In the second week, they start with Turkish. Formal lessons, 6 hours a day. The boys who resist, who refuse to speak, who cling to their native languages as identity anchors, get beaten. Not brutally, methodically. Enough to teach the lesson that resistance costs more than compliance. Gjergj speaks Turkish, badly at first, then adequately, then well. By month 3, he's dreaming in it. By month 6, his Albanian is getting fuzzy around the edges. They teach Arabic next, then Persian. Not conversational language, administrative language, the language of decrees and poetry and Quranic law. The empire runs on paperwork, and paperwork runs on precision. A misplaced word in a firman can mean the difference between a province paying taxes and a province rebelling. So they drill grammar until the boys can recite declensions in their sleep. But language is the easy part. The real training is psychological. Every morning, Quran recitation. They're not being asked to believe, not yet, just to perform. Pronounce the words correctly, understand the meaning, demonstrate competence in the faith that runs the empire. Some boys refuse. They disappear, not killed, reassigned to lesser roles. Servants, laborers. The Devshirme only wants the best. And refusal is self-selection out of the gene pool. Gjergj recites perfectly. He doesn't think about what the words mean. He thinks about what competence earns. Better food, better quarters, the attention of senior instructors who note his name in their records. At 10 years old, he's assigned to horsemanship training. This is where the real filtering happens. Cavalry is the elite arm of Ottoman military power. Infantry holds ground. Cavalry wins battles. The boys who can't ride get reassigned to janissary training. Still prestigious, still powerful, but not the fast track. Gjergj learns to ride. Not just sit on a horse, fight from a horse. Charge in formation, wheel, feint, use terrain. Control a mount with legs and weight while both hands are occupied with weapons. He's good at it. Not the best in his cohort. There's a Serbian boy who rides like he was born in the saddle, and a Greek who has an instinct for cavalry tactics that makes instructors stop and watch. But Gjergj is top quartile, which means he's valuable. At 12, they start strategic training, map reading, logistics, supply calculations, how many tons of grain to feed 10,000 men for a month, how fast an army can march in summer versus winter, where rivers are fordable and where they're kill zones. This is where Gjergj starts to shine. Because strategy isn't about physical talent. It's about pattern recognition. And he's been recognizing patterns since the road from Kruja. The instructors notice. They always notice. The Enderun is designed to identify talent the way a sieve identifies gold. By 15, Gjergj is in the advanced cohort. By 16, he's converting to Islam, officially, publicly, in a ceremony that marks his transformation from Gjergj Kastrioti to Scanderbegi, Alexander the Lord. The name is aspirational. Alexander conquered the known world. Iskender is expected to conquer parts of it. Here's the part we don't want to admit. He's not pretending. He's not secretly clinging to his Albanian identity, plotting revenge, waiting for his moment. He is Iskender. He speaks Turkish better than Albanian now. He prays 5 times a day because that's what competent officers do. He believes in the empire because the empire has given him everything his birth in a minor Albanian fortress never could have. At 18, he graduates. Top 10% of his cohort. He's granted a tumar, a land grant that comes with tax revenue and the obligation to supply cavalry when called. It's not a large grant, maybe a few villages in Anatolia, but it's property, authority, the beginnings of power, and he's good at using it. His first campaign is in Serbia, 1437 or 1438. Records are fuzzy, a regional rebellion, nothing major. Iskender commands a squadron of cavalry, maybe 50 horsemen. His job is to scout, harass enemy supply lines, and report. He does all 3, efficiently, without losing men. The campaign ends with the rebellion crushed, and Iskender noted in dispatches as competent and reliable. Competent and reliable. That's the Ottoman golden standard. Flashy gets you killed. Competent gets you promoted. He campaigns in Hungary next, then possibly Wallachia. Again, records conflict, but the pattern is clear. For 15 years, Scanderbegi serves. He's not biding time. He's not planning defection. He is an Ottoman officer. He wins when he's supposed to win. He reports accurately. He doesn't steal from the treasury or abuse his authority in ways that create political problems. He's everything the Devshirme was designed to create: loyalty weaponized. By his early 30s, he's a subasha, a military governor with command authority over garrison forces. He's married to an Ottoman woman. Marriage erased from later histories because it complicates the narrative of the pure Christian resistor. He owns property in 3 provinces. He has a reputation. When Sultan Murad II calls for experienced cavalry commanders for the Hungarian campaign of 1443, Iskender's name is on the list. This is his peak. Mid-30s, proven, trusted, on track to become a beylerbey, a provincial governor with real political power. If he stays loyal, if he keeps performing, he'll die wealthy and honored. His children will inherit his rank. The system works, and then it breaks. November 3rd, 1443. Battle of Niš, Serbia. The Ottomans march into a trap. John Hunyadi, Hungarian general, one of the few Christian commanders who actually knows how to fight the Ottomans, catches them in bad terrain with overextended supply lines. The result isn't a battle. It's a slaughter. Iskender is there. Commands his cavalry unit on the left wing. Watches the center collapse. Watches Janissaries, the elite infantry that never breaks, break. Watches Ottoman commanders panic, issue contradictory orders, lose control of their formations. He's been in battles before. He's seen Ottoman units take casualties. But he's never seen them lose. Not like this. Not total collapse. Men throwing down weapons and running, supply wagons abandoned, the whole logistical apparatus of empire coming apart like rotten cloth. And in that moment, watching the empire that trained him fall apart, he realizes something. They're not invincible. They're not even particularly competent right now. Murad too overextended. His commanders got cocky. They walked into an obvious ambush because they stopped respecting the enemy, which means the whole structure, the aura of inevitable victory, the myth of Ottoman invincibility, is just PR, good PR, but still PR, and PR breaks when you lose. Iskender sits on his horse, surrounded by his Albanian cavalry, about 300 men, all recruited from his homeland, all technically under his personal command. The Ottoman center is disintegrating. Nobody's giving orders anymore. In the chaos, units are scattering. He could retreat, follow standard doctrine, regroup at the rally point. That's what a loyal Ottoman officer does. Or he looks at his cavalry, Albanian boys, most of them, taken through the Devshirme like he was, or recruited through the Tumar system. They're watching him, waiting for orders, and he makes the calculation. The empire is weak, right now, in this moment. And weak empires don't reward loyalty. They consume it. Officers who survive disasters get blamed for disasters. That's politics. Murad will need scapegoats for Nish. And Iskender, Albanian-born, Christian converted, competent enough to be threatening, is a perfect scapegoat. So staying loyal means probable execution. Defecting means certain war. But war against a weak empire is survivable. Execution isn't. He doesn't announce it. Doesn't give a speech, just turns his horse west, toward Albania, and rides. His cavalry follows, some because they're loyal to him personally, some because they're Albanian and they've been waiting for this, some because following is easier than deciding. 300 horsemen, moving west through the chaos of a collapsing battlefield. Nobody stops them. Nobody even notices. The Ottoman command structure is too busy imploding. They ride for 5 days, west through Serbia, across the mountains. Every time they encounter an Ottoman unit, Iskender uses his rank. We're pursuing Hungarian raiders. We're scouting supply routes. Move along. His Turkish is perfect. His authority is unquestioned. They keep moving. On the 6th day, he stops. Night camp. Calls his senior officers together. Tells them the plan. They're going to take Kruja, his father's fortress, the seat of his birth family, and they're going to do it using the empire's own bureaucracy. He has a firman, an imperial decree, or rather, he's going to forge one. He knows the phrases, the formatting, the proper Turkish. He captured an Ottoman seal at Nish, or he forges one. Sources differ on this detail. And he writes out orders in perfect bureaucratic language commanding the garrison at Kruja to surrender the fortress to Scanderbegi for strategic purposes. It's a heist. He's stealing a fortress using paperwork, and it works. November 28th, 1443. Kruja. Iskender rides up to the gates under Ottoman colors, presents the firman. The garrison commander reads it, believes it. Why wouldn't he? The seal is correct. The language is correct. The man presenting it is a known Ottoman officer with command authority. The gates open. Iskender enters with 50 men. The rest wait outside. The garrison commander offers hospitality, bread, salt, the customs of welcome. Iskender accepts. They sit. They eat. Then Iskender stands, draws his sword, and kills him. The 50 men with Iskender kill the rest of the garrison. Not a battle, an execution. Fast, brutal, efficient. Within an hour, the fortress is his. The Ottoman garrison is dead, and the 300 cavalry outside are riding in to secure the walls. Iskender stands in the courtyard, his father's courtyard, the fortress he was taken from 20 years ago. He's back, but nothing is the same. His father died 6 years ago. His brothers, 3 of them dead, 1 alive but broken by the Devshirme system. The people who knew him as Gjergj are gone or scattered. He's not coming home. He's conquering a place that used to be home. He walks to the highest tower, looks east, toward Ottoman territory, toward the empire that trained him, raised him, made him everything he is, and he knows exactly what's coming, because he knows how the empire responds to defection. They'll send an army, a big one, to crush him publicly, to make an example, to prove that defecting is suicide. He has maybe 4 months before that army arrives, 4 months to turn a fortress into a state, to unite Albanian nobles who've spent the last decade fighting each other, to build an army out of mountain warlords and peasant levies, to prepare for a war against the greatest military power in the world. Most men would panic. Iskender plans. Because here's his secret advantage. He knows them. He knows Ottoman doctrine. He knows their standard responses to rebellion. He knows how they'll attack, where they'll attack, what mistakes they'll make. He spent 15 years learning how to be them. Now he's going to use that knowledge to destroy them. December 1443. He sends messengers to every Albanian noble family within 100 miles. The message is simple. The Ottomans are coming. Unite or die separately. Some ignore him. Some send polite refusals. Some send insults. But a few, the ones who are smart enough to read the map, who understand that Skanderbeg taking Kruja means the Ottomans will punish every Albanian whether they supported him or not, send representatives. January 1444. He rides to the town of Leja, meets with the nobles who showed up, maybe a dozen families, small-time warlords, most of them, a few significant players. None of them trust each other. All of them hate Venetian encroachment. Most of them have been playing both sides against the middle for years, paying tribute to the Ottomans while quietly supporting resistance movements. Iskender, he's going by Scanderbeg now, the Albanian rendering of his Ottoman name, stands before them. No crown, no throne, just a man in armor, and he tells them the truth. The Ottomans are coming, not next year, this spring. They'll bring 20, maybe 30,000 men. They'll burn everything between here and Constantinople unless we stop them. And we can't stop them individually. We can't even slow them down. But together, if we fight smart, if we use terrain, if we refuse to give them the kind of battle they want, we can bleed them, make it cost so much, they give up. One of the nobles, Gjergj Kastrioti, one of the few with actual military experience, asks the obvious question. And if we lose? Scanderbeg doesn't hesitate. Then they kill us all. You, me, our families, everyone who followed us. The Ottomans don't do half measures with rebellion, so we don't lose. Not inspirational, just math. Fight together and maybe survive. Fight separately and definitely die. March 2, 1444. The nobles sign the League of Leja, a military alliance with Scanderbeg as commander-in-chief. It's not a kingdom, not even a real state. Just a coalition held together by shared fear and the slim hope that the Albanian-turned-Ottoman-turned-Albanian knows what he's doing. Scanderbeg takes the oaths, promises protection, promises victory, and privately calculates that half these nobles will betray him before the decade is out. But he needs them now. Needs their men, their castles, their knowledge of local terrain. Spring 1444. Scouts report Ottoman movement, an army assembling at Ohrid. 25,000 men under Ali Pasha, a veteran commander with a solid reputation. They're not bringing siege equipment. This is a punitive expedition. Find Scanderbeg's army, destroy it, make an example. The Ottomans expect him to hide, to retreat into the mountains, to fight like a guerrilla, ambushes, raids, hit and run. That's what mountain rebels do. Skanderbeg prepares to fight a pitched battle because that's what they won't expect, and because he knows something they don't. He knows exactly how they'll deploy for a battle against mountain irregulars. He was in the planning sessions for dozens of campaigns just like this. He knows the doctrine: center heavy, janissaries as anchor, cavalry on wings to pursue when the enemy breaks. So he's going to give them exactly that setup, and then he's going to use their own doctrine to butcher them. The location: Torviol. Good ground, hills, ravines, narrow approaches. He scouts it personally, walks every meter, finds the terrain features that Ottoman maps won't show, the places where cavalry can't deploy, the dead ground where you can hide reserves. He has maybe 8,000 men. Maybe. Half are trained soldiers, half are peasants with spears, against 25,000 Ottomans with professional janissaries and cavalry. The math says he loses. But Skanderbeg isn't fighting math. He's fighting doctrine, and doctrine is predictable. His officers ask how they're going to win. He tells them, "We let them think we're bandits, then we show them we're soldiers." June 1444. The armies close. Ali Pasha's scouts report contact. Albanian forces at Torviol, maybe 10,000, deployed defensively. Ali Pasha smiles. Defensive deployment means they're scared, means they'll break when the center pushes. Standard suppression operation. He has no idea he's walking into a trap designed by someone who knows exactly how he thinks. Because Skanderbeg learned from the best, and now he's going to kill them with their own lessons. Here's what Skanderbeg understood that Ali Pasha didn't. Terrain isn't just where you fight, it's how you fight. And the Ottomans, for all their tactical sophistication, had one fatal habit. They fought the same battle every time. Standard Ottoman doctrine against irregular forces: deploy heavy. Center your janissaries, your unbreakable infantry corps. Flank them with cavalry. When the enemy engages your center, hold. When they break, and they always break against janissaries, your cavalry pursues, runs them down, turns retreat into slaughter. It works because most irregular forces are irregular. No discipline, no staying power. They hit, panic, run. Skanderbeg had seen this playbook executed maybe 20 times in his 15 years of service. Serbia, Hungary, Anatolia. Same pattern. The empire wins because it brings overwhelming force to a predictable framework and executes with professional precision. So he's going to give them exactly what they expect, and then use their own doctrine to kill them. April 1444. He rides to Torviol alone. Just him and a single guide, a local shepherd who knows every ravine in the valley. Skanderbeg needs to see it himself. Maps lie. Distances compress on paper. You can't feel slope from a sketch. The valley is perfect. Or it will be, if he can make Ali Pasha position where Skanderbeg needs him to position. Torviol sits in broken country, not mountains. Albania has real mountains further east, but hills, ravines, narrow defiles where streams have carved through soft rock over centuries. The main approach from the Ottoman staging area runs through relatively open ground, which will make Ali Pasha confident. He'll see deployment space, room for cavalry, a proper battlefield. But 2 kilometers west, the ground changes. A ravine cuts north-south, maybe 30 meters wide at the top, narrowing to 15 at the bottom. Rocky walls, steep but not unclimbable. The floor is passable for cavalry, single file, maybe 2 abreast if they're careful. On the north side, the ravine opens into a broader valley. On the south side, it pinches closed against a hillside. Skanderbeg walks the ravine floor, checks the footing, runs his hand along the rock walls, looks up at the rim. He's calculating fields of fire, concealment positions, how long it takes to move a cavalry unit through this kind of terrain at a gallop versus a walk. The shepherd watches him, finally asks, "You're going to fight them here?" Scanderbeg shakes his head. "I'm going to kill them here. The fighting happens over there." He points east toward the open ground. The shepherd doesn't understand. Scanderbeg doesn't explain, because the plan only works if nobody understands it except him, not even his own commanders, not until the last possible moment. He rides back to Gjergj, calls his senior officers together, maybe a dozen men. Mixture of Albanian nobles who brought their retinues, professional soldiers who defected from Ottoman service with him, and a few Hungarian mercenaries who fight for anyone paying silver. The most important one is Varana Conti, Albanian noble, maybe 40 years old, commanded his own forces for a decade before the League. Competent, not brilliant. Crucially, willing to follow orders even when they don't make sense. That's the rarest skill in any coalition army. Brilliance gets you killed when everyone wants to freelance. Obedience keeps formations intact. There's also Tanush Thopia, younger, mid-30s, smart enough to be dangerous, ambitious enough to be a problem later. But right now, Scanderbeg needs his cavalry. 200 horsemen, well-equipped, the closest thing the Albanian forces have to professional light cavalry. Tanush knows it, keeps reminding everyone his men are the elite strike force. And Gjergj Kastrioti, the skeptic, older than Scanderbeg, fought the Ottomans in smaller actions for years, never trusted anyone fully. He's brought 1,000 infantry, solid troops, but he's waiting for Scanderbeg to prove himself. One mistake, and Kastrioti pulls his men out of the League. Everyone knows it. Scanderbeg lays out a map, points to Torviol. Ali Pasha is bringing 25,000 men. We have 8,000. In a straight fight, we lose, so we're not fighting straight. Kastrioti grunts. Ambush tactics. Hit the supply train. Avoid pitched battle. No. Scanderbeg taps the map. We're fighting a pitched battle, right here, and we're going to win. Silence. Someone, probably Tanush, laughs. Not mockery. Disbelief. Varana Conti leans forward. How? And Scanderbeg tells them, not all of it, just enough. The Ottomans will deploy their standard formation. Heavy center, cavalry wings. Scanderbeg's forces will deploy in the open ground east of the ravine. Refuse the center, pull it back, make it look weak. When the Ottomans attack, the center retreats. Controlled retreat, not a rout. Falls back through the ravine. Kastrioti sees it immediately. You're funneling them. I'm funneling their cavalry. The Janissaries will hold position. That's doctrine. But their cavalry will pursue. They always pursue. And when they're strung out in that ravine, we hit them from both sides. The room is quiet. They're running the math. It could work. If the retreat is disciplined, if the cavalry pursues, if the timing is perfect, if 1,000 variables align. Tanush asks the real question. And if they don't pursue? If Ali Pasha smells the trap? Scanderbeg looks at him. Then we're fighting 8,000 against 25,000 in open ground, and we all die. So we make sure he doesn't smell it. That's not reassurance. That's acknowledgement of the stakes. Fight smart or die. No middle option. Kastrioti asks, who commands the center? The retreat has to be controlled or it becomes a real rout. Scanderbeg doesn't hesitate. I do. That settles it. If Scanderbeg is betting his own life on the discipline of the retreat, it's not a suicide mission. It's a plan. And the center is the hardest position, has to absorb Ottoman pressure, fall back without breaking, time the withdrawal perfectly. If he's taking that risk personally, the others can commit their men. Vranakanti nods. My cavalry takes the north rim. Yes, concealed positions. Wait for my signal. Tanush. And mine? South rim. Same orders. Nobody moves until I signal. If you charge early, we lose. If you charge late, we lose. You wait until their cavalry is committed in the ravine, strung out, vulnerable. Then you ride them down. Tanush grins. He likes it. Likes the glory of the killing blow. Likes that his 200 will be the hammer that breaks the Ottoman cavalry. Aryanidis still looks skeptical. You're assuming Ali Pasha fights like every other Ottoman commander. What if he adapts? He won't. Scanderbeg says it with certainty. I know him. Served with him in Hungary. He's competent, experienced, and that's the problem. Experience teaches you what works. And what works against mountain irregulars is overwhelming force applied to a standard deployment. He'll see our numbers, see our defensive formation, see exactly what he expects to see, and he'll execute exactly the way he's been trained to execute. And if you're wrong, Scanderbeg doesn't blink, then you'll have the satisfaction of being right before the Ottomans kill you. Not a joke, a fact. Aryanidi laughs anyway. Dark humor. The only kind that works when you're outnumbered 3-1. But certainty is one thing. Execution is another. And over the next 6 weeks, Scanderbeg discovers that building an army from Albanian nobles is like herding cats that hate each other. The problems start immediately. Vranakanti's cavalry arrives on time, well-equipped, ready to fight. Tanush Thopia's cavalry shows up 3 days late because Tanush stopped to raid a Venetian supply convoy on the way. He arrives grinning, his men loaded with stolen grain and wine, and doesn't understand why Scanderbeg is furious. We need supplies, Tanush says. Venice isn't giving us anything for free. You attacked an ally. Venice isn't our ally. They're arms dealers who want profit margins. He's not wrong, but timing matters. Scanderbeg needs Venice neutral. Every time an Albanian noble raids Venetian holdings, Venice inches closer to supporting the Ottomans just to restore order. But he can't afford to alienate Tanush, not before the battle. So he swallows the anger, makes a note, deals with it later. Then Aryanidis' infantry arrives, 1,000 men, except it's not 1,000, it's 700. Aryanidi shrugs. Planting season, some men stayed home. You promised 1,000. I brought what I could bring, and that's the coalition. Promises are flexible. Commitments are conditional. Everyone's calculating what happens after the battle, if there is an after, and positioning for advantage. Scanderbeg is trying to forge a unified military force. His allies are trying to survive with maximum leverage. The peasant levies are worse. They show up with farm tools, scythes, wood axes. Maybe 1 in 10 has actual military equipment. They're brave enough. You don't volunteer for a battle against the Ottomans if you're not willing to die. But bravery doesn't stop a janissary's sword. Scanderbeg assigns them to the center with him, the retreat force. They don't need to win, just hold long enough to run. He drills them, every day, for 4 weeks. The retreat isn't a rout, it's a fighting withdrawal. Disciplined, controlled. You engage, you hold, you fall back in formation, you engage again. Anyone who breaks early gets executed. Anyone who stands too long gets killed by Ottomans. The men hate it. Drilling is boring. Drilling feels like cowardice. They want to fight, want glory, want to prove themselves. Scanderbeg doesn't care what they want. He makes them practice the retreat until they can do it asleep, until the rhythm is automatic. Contact, hold, Withdraw. Contact. Hold. Withdraw. The peasants start to understand. This isn't running. This is control. Discipline. The scariest thing you can show an enemy, a force that retreats without panicking. Meanwhile, scouts bring reports. Ali Pasha's army is assembling at Ohrid, 25,000, maybe more, heavy cavalry, janissaries. Supply trains stretching for kilometers. They're moving slowly. Armies that size always move slowly, but they're moving. Timeline: they'll reach Torviol in early June, which gives Scanderbeg maybe 3 more weeks. He uses the time, rides the terrain again, marks concealment positions on the ravine rims, has his engineers, 2 Hungarian mercenaries who actually know siege work, prepare the ambush sites. Nothing elaborate, just cleared fields of fire, paths down to the ravine floor, escape routes if everything goes wrong. And he watches his army, looking for weak points, the units that won't hold, the commanders who'll freelance, the political fractures that'll open under pressure. Vranakanti is solid, follows orders, keeps his men disciplined, no glory-seeking, no politics, just competence. That's worth more than brilliance. Tanush is a problem waiting to happen. His cavalry is good, maybe the best Scanderbeg has, but Tanush wants credit, wants to be the hero, wants people talking about how Tanush Thopia broke the Ottoman cavalry. That kind of ego gets people killed, but Scanderbeg needs those 200 horsemen, so he manages it. Flatters Tanush, tells him the South Rim position is the place of honor, the killing blow, makes him feel important enough to follow orders. Arianidi is still skeptical, still watching, still calculating odds, but he's professional. His 700 infantry are the best trained unit in the Albanian force. If the center has to hold under real pressure, Arianidi's men are the ones who'll do it. Late May. Final war council. The last chance to back out, to disperse, to avoid pitched battle and try guerrilla tactics instead. Nobody backs out because they've done the math too. The Ottomans are coming regardless. Better to fight on ground you choose than ground they choose. Scanderbeg gives final orders, deployment positions, timing, signals. He's using trumpet calls, different patterns for different commands. Retreat, hold, charge, simple, clear, hard to misinterpret even in the chaos of battle. Then he tells them something he hasn't told them before. Ali Pasha thinks we're bandits, mountain irregulars with no discipline. He's going to deploy like we're bandits, heavy center, overwhelming force, standard suppression doctrine. And when we retreat, he's going to think we're breaking, because that's what bandits do. They hit, they panic, they run. He pauses, lets it sink in. So we're going to look like bandits, fight like bandits, retreat like bandits, until his cavalry is committed in that ravine. And then we're going to show him what 15 years of Ottoman military training actually built. Vranakanti smiles. He understands. Scanderbeg isn't just using terrain. He's using expectation, confirmation bias. Ali Pasha will see what he expects to see. Undisciplined mountain fighters. And by the time he realizes he's wrong, it'll be too late. Arianidi asks one last question. And if it works? If we win? What then? Scanderbeg doesn't sugarcoat it. Then the Ottomans send another army. Bigger, angrier. This doesn't end the war. It just proves we can fight one. So why fight? Because if we don't, we're already dead. At least this way, we're dead on our terms. It's not inspirational. It's honest. And honesty is what keeps coalitions from fracturing. Everyone knows the stakes. Everyone knows this is desperation dressed up as strategy. But desperation with a plan beats submission. June 27, 1444. Scouts report Ottoman advance elements 2 days out. Ali Pasha is moving faster than expected. Not rushing, that's not his style, but not dawdling either. He wants this done, wants to crush the rebellion, get back to Constantinople, report success. Scanderbeg moves his army into position. 8,000 men. The center deploys on the open ground east of the ravine. 4,000 infantry, mix of trained soldiers and peasant levies. Weak-looking formation, spread thin. Exactly what Ali Pasha will expect from an inferior force trying to cover too much ground. The cavalry, Vrana's 400 on the north rim, Tanish's 200 on the south rim, moves into concealment. Trees, rocks, dead ground. Anyone looking from the valley floor won't see them, won't even suspect they're there. Scanderbeg positions himself with the center, on foot, visible. He wants Ali Pasha's scouts to see him, wants them to report. Scanderbeg commands the center personally. The center is where the Albanian strength is concentrated. Standard defensive deployment. All of it is theater, misdirection. The center isn't the strength, it's the bait. June 28th, the Ottoman army arrives. 25,000 men. They camp 3 kilometers east. Cooking fires, organized, professional. No panic, no rush. They're here to do a job. Suppress a rebellion, standard operation. Ali Pasha sends scouts forward. They ride close enough to observe the Albanian positions. See the spread thin center. See Scanderbeg on foot with his banner. See exactly what Ottoman intelligence said they'd see. Inferior force deployed defensively, trying to hold ground they can't actually hold. The scouts ride back. Make their report. Ali Pasha nods. This is what he expected. Mountain irregulars trying to fight like a real army. They'll break when the Janissaries push. Then the cavalry runs them down. Textbook. That night, Scanderbeg doesn't sleep. Walks the ravine one last time, checks the concealment positions, makes sure his cavalry commanders understand. Wait for the signal. No matter what happens, no matter how tempting the target looks. Wait. Tanish complains. If we wait too long, they'll escape. If you charge too early, we all die. You wait for the trumpet. 3 short blasts. Not 2, not 4. 3. Then you ride. Tanish nods. He's been told this 6 times. But Scanderbeg tells him again. Because in battle, people forget, panic, freelance, and freelancing gets everyone killed. Dawn. June 29th, 1444. The Ottoman army forms up. Textbook deployment. Janissaries in the center. Maybe 8,000 of them, the Empire's elite infantry. Sipahi cavalry on both wings. Heavy horse, well-armed, professional. Ali Pasha positions himself behind the center with his command staff. He can see the Albanian line, thin, nervous-looking. Some of them are actually nervous. The peasant levies have never faced an army this size, but some are acting. Scanderbeg told them, look scared. Look like you're about to break. Sell it. Ali Pasha gives the order, advance. The Ottoman center moves forward, slow march, drums beating, Janissaries in formation, disciplined, unstoppable. They've done this 100 times. The enemy sees them coming, panics, breaks. This time will be the same. Scanderbeg watches them come. His center holds position. He's judging distance, timing, not yet. The Ottomans close to 200 meters. Archers start loosing. Arrows fall into the Albanian line. Men scream, fall. The line wavers but holds. 100 meters, close enough to see faces, close enough to hear the march cadence. The Janissaries are singing. A war chant. It's psychological warfare, the sound of inevitability. Scanderbeg raises his hand. The trumpet sounds. One long blast, his center engages, meets the Ottoman advance. Not a charge, a controlled contact, spears against shields, swords against armor. The noise is overwhelming, screaming, metal on metal, men dying in the first 30 seconds, and Scanderbeg's line holds for maybe 2 minutes. Long enough to prove they're not running immediately, long enough to make Ali Pasha think this might actually be a fight. Then Scanderbeg signals again. 2 short blasts, the center retreats. Not a rout, a fighting withdrawal. Step back, hold formation, disengage. The peasants do it perfectly. They've drilled this for 4 weeks. It looks like a retreat because it is a retreat, but it's controlled, disciplined. The Janissaries pursue, cautiously. This is standard. The enemy is breaking. Press them, but don't overextend. Ali Pasha is watching. This is going exactly as expected. But the Ottoman cavalry commanders see something different. They see an enemy retreating, and cavalry doctrine is clear. Pursue. Break the retreat into a rout. That's what cavalry does. The left-wing cavalry, maybe 2,000 Sipahis, wheels and charges after the retreating Albanian center, straight toward the ravine. Scanderbeg sees them commit, sees the cavalry detach from the main Ottoman line, sees them accelerate into pursuit. He keeps retreating, leading them. The center falls back through the open ground, then into the mouth of the ravine. The Ottoman cavalry follows. They're committed now, full gallop, hunting. The ravine narrows, but they don't stop. They're too focused on the kill. 2,000 horsemen funneling into a space 30 meters wide. Scanderbeg's center hits the far end of the ravine, turns, forms up, blocks the exit. The Ottoman cavalry realizes too late. They're in a kill box, narrow walls, can't deploy, can't maneuver, jammed together. Scanderbeg raises his hand. The trumpet sounds. 3 short blasts. From the north rim, Vranakanti's 400 cavalry appear. From the south rim, Tanish's 200. They're not charging into the ravine. That would be suicide. They're positioned on the rims, firing down, arrows, javelins, dropping rocks, picking targets. The Ottoman cavalry tries to fight back, can't. Wrong terrain, wrong formation. The horses panic, riders fall, bodies jam the ravine floor, blocking retreat. Then Varana's cavalry finds the paths down, crashes into the Ottoman flank from the north, Tanush from the south. Not a fair fight, a slaughter. Cavalry trapped in a ravine, unable to maneuver, getting hacked apart by enemies with every advantage. It takes maybe 20 minutes. 2,000 Ottoman Sipahis reduced to maybe 300 survivors who break through and run. On the main battlefield, Ali Pasha watches his cavalry wing disintegrate, watches them vanish into a ravine and not come back. He's smart enough to know what happened. This wasn't bandits. This was a planned ambush, professional, precise. And now he has a choice. Commit his reserves, try to save the cavalry, or withdraw, cut losses, report failure. He chooses withdrawal, because throwing more men into a trap doesn't change the trap. He's lost 2,000 cavalry. The battle hasn't even fully developed yet. This is a disaster. The Ottoman army pulls back, organized retreat. The Janissaries cover the withdrawal. Professional, but they're retreating from an inferior force, from mountain irregulars who just executed a perfect combined arms ambush. Scanderbeg doesn't pursue, can't. His center is exhausted. His cavalry is disordered from the ravine fight. Pursuit would be stupid. He's won enough. By midday, the Ottoman army is gone, moving east, away from Torviel, leaving their dead in the ravine. Scanderbeg stands at the ravine rim, looking down at the carnage. Ottoman cavalry bodies piled 3 deep in places, horses screaming with broken legs, the smell of blood so thick it's choking. Vrana Conti rides up, blood on his armor, grinning. "We did it." Scanderbeg doesn't smile, just nods, because this isn't victory, this is an announcement. The Ottomans now know he's not a bandit. He's a threat, and threats get escalated. Ali Pasha will report. Murad II will read the report, and next time they'll send more. Not 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. Scanderbeg has just won the battle that ensures he'll spend the rest of his life fighting. May 1450. The Ottoman army arrives at Kruja not as a force but as a migration. 60,000 men, that's the realistic number, though Ottoman chroniclers will claim twice that. Marching up the coastal plain in columns that stretch for kilometers, supply wagons, siege engineers, camp followers, livestock, an entire mobile city designed to surround a fortress and starve it into submission. Scanderbeg watches them come from the highest tower. Been watching for 3 days as scouts reported their approach. First, the dust cloud on the horizon, then the banners, then the actual mass of humanity flowing north like a dark river. He's seen Ottoman armies before, commanded units in them, but never one this large coming specifically for him. The fortress of Kruja sits on a mountain spine 1,800 feet above the coastal plain. Sheer cliffs on the north and west sides, steep approaches from south and east, 3 concentric walls, the innermost protecting the citadel. Garrison of 4,000 fighting men, plus maybe 2,000 civilians who fled here when they heard the Ottomans were coming. Supplies for 3 months if rationed carefully. Water from an internal spring, the one advantage that makes prolonged siege survivable. Below, the Ottoman vanguard reaches the base of the mountain and begins deploying, not rushing, not even hurrying. They have time, they have numbers. They're going to surround the fortress completely, cut every supply line, and wait for hunger to do what assault might not. Vrana Conti climbs the tower stairs, joins Scanderbeg at the battlement, looks down at the Ottoman deployment, doesn't say anything for a long moment. Finally, "That's a lot of men." Scanderbeg nods. "Murad's here personally. That's his banner." He points to a massive red standard being erected near what will become the command pavilion. He's not delegating this one. Should we be honored? We should be terrified, but terror doesn't change math. We hold these walls or we die. The math is ugly. 60,000 Ottomans, 4,000 defenders, 15-to-1 odds. In open battle, that's annihilation. In siege warfare, it's survivable, barely, if the defenders are disciplined and the attackers are impatient. The Ottomans are never impatient. They've perfected siege warfare over a century of conquest. They'll probe for weakness, exploit mistakes, and methodically dismantle defenses until something breaks. By evening, the encirclement is complete. Ottoman siege lines form a complete ring around the mountain, watch posts every 100 meters, supply depots being established, latrines being dug, engineers surveying the walls with the careful attention of men planning demolition. This isn't an assault camp. This is a siege camp built for months. The first bombardment comes at dawn the next morning. Not cannon. The Ottomans have some, but not many, and hauling them up mountain trails is brutal work. These are trebuchets and mangonels hurling stones at the outer wall. The impacts sound like thunder, stone hitting stone, chunks of masonry exploding into fragments. The wall holds, it's thick, well built, designed for exactly this, but every hit weakens the mortar, creates micro-fractures that will compound over weeks. Scanderbeg doesn't let his men watch from the walls, makes them stay below during bombardment. No point losing people to random stone fragments when the real fighting hasn't started. He walks the fortress instead, checking defenses, checking morale, checking supply depots. The civilians are scared. They've heard stories about Ottoman sieges, about what happens when fortresses fall, and fear is contagious. So Scanderbeg makes himself visible, walks without armor during the day, eats the same rations as everyone else, sleeps in the barracks, not the castle chambers, political theater, but necessary. When you're outnumbered 15-1, morale is ammunition. The first week is almost boring. The Ottomans bombard. The walls take damage but don't breach. Ottoman archers shoot at anyone visible on the battlements. Albanian archers shoot back. A few men die on both sides. Not many. Just the slow attrition of siege warfare, where every day costs lives in ones and twos. Week 2, the Ottomans try an assault. Not a major one, a probe, testing defenses. Maybe 2,000 men with ladders and a ram. They come at dawn, running up the steep approach to the outer wall. Albanian defenders drop stones on them, pour boiling oil. The ram reaches the gate, pounds it maybe 20 times before a well-aimed stone crushes the lead crew. The assault breaks. The Ottomans retreat, dragging their wounded. Maybe 50 Ottoman dead. 2 Albanian defenders killed by arrows. Scanderbeg walks the wall after, looking at the bodies scattered on the approach. One of them is maybe 16 years old. Albanian face, probably from a village not far from here. Taken in the Devshirme, trained, brought back to attack his homeland. The circle of empire. Week 3, things get worse. Not from attacks, from heat. It's June now, summer in the Balkans. The fortress has shade, and the spring provides cool water. The Ottoman camp in the plain below has neither. Men start getting sick. Dysentery first, always dysentery in siege camps, the price of 60,000 people shitting in close proximity. Then fever, probably typhus, maybe malaria. They're close enough to coastal marshes that mosquitoes are thick at night. Scanderbeg can see it from the walls, can see the Ottoman burial details getting busier, can see the camp spreading as units try to move upwind of the latrines, can see discipline starting to fray at the edges. The Ottomans are still dangerous, still have overwhelming numbers, but they're bleeding, slowly, expensively. Inside the fortress, Scanderbeg tightens rationing. The first month was generous. People need to stay strong. The second month is adequate. The third month is going to be harsh. He does the math with his quartermaster, an old Hungarian mercenary who survived 6 sieges and knows exactly how little a person can eat and still fight. 3 months at current consumption, the quartermaster says. 4 if we cut rations by 1/3. 5 if we slaughter the horses. Horses last, Scanderbeg says. We might need to break out. With 4,000 against 60,000? If it comes to that, we're already dead. But we die fighting, not starving. The quartermaster nods. Professional respect. Then 4 months. After that, we're eating rats. Late June, the Ottomans start mining. Scanderbeg spots it from the tunnel spoil appearing at the base of the mountain. They're digging under the walls. Plan is to tunnel beneath the foundation, prop it with timber, then burn the timber and collapse the tunnel and the wall above it. Standard siege engineering, slow, labor-intensive, effective. So Scanderbeg does what defenders always do, counter-mining. His engineers dig their own tunnels, trying to intercept the Ottoman tunnels before they reach the wall. It's archaeological warfare, digging through rock and clay, listening for the sound of enemy digging, gambling on trajectories and depth. The first interception happens in early July. An Albanian mining crew breaks through into an Ottoman tunnel. No warning. Just suddenly there's a hole and Ottoman miners on the other side, shocked, scrambling for weapons in a space too small to fight properly. What follows is nightmare combat. Tunnels may be 6 feet high, 4 feet wide, No room to swing a sword properly. Men fighting with knives and hammers in bare hands. The only light is from torches, which means smoke, which means suffocating, which means fighting blind and choking. The Albanian crew kills 3 Ottoman miners, loses 2 of their own. Then they collapse the tunnel with a small explosive charge. Not enough to damage their own tunnel, just enough to seal the Ottoman approach. Both bodies stay in the collapsed section. Nobody's digging them out. There's no time. The Ottomans are digging 5 other tunnels. The Albanians have to find those too. Over the next month, there are 4 more underground encounters. Small, brutal. Men dying in the dark beneath a fortress that's trying to kill them from above. Scanderbeg loses 8 miners. The Ottomans lose more. Exact numbers unknown because collapsed tunnels become mass graves. But the mining continues because the Ottomans can afford to lose miners. They have 60,000 men. Scanderbeg has 4,000 and each loss is irreplaceable. August. 2 months into the siege. The heat is unbearable. The Ottoman camp is a disease factory. Scanderbeg can smell it from the walls. 60,000 people in summer heat with inadequate sanitation produces a stench that carries on the wind. Death smell, rot smell, the smell of an army consuming itself. But the Ottomans are patient. They don't have to assault. They just have to wait. And the longer they wait, the weaker the garrison gets. Inside the fortress, rations are cut again. People are eating half what they should. The civilians are starting to look skeletal. Some are agitating for surrender, negotiate terms, save the children, accept Ottoman rule. Scanderbeg executes 2 of them publicly, not because he wants to, because he has to. Surrender talk is contagious, and contagion kills faster than starvation. The execution happens in the main square. 2 men, quick, professional. Swords, not ropes. He's not trying to torture them, just make a point. The bodies hang from the walls afterward, visible to the garrison, visible to the Ottomans below. The next day, the Ottomans execute 6 Albanian prisoners in sight of the fortress. Psychological warfare. The prisoners are hanged slowly. Scanderbeg watches from the walls, doesn't react, doesn't give Murad the satisfaction. That night, he orders 3 captured Ottoman soldiers hanged from the fortress walls, visible to their army. The message is clear. This is the price. Both sides play. September, 3 months. The fortress is still holding, barely. The walls are damaged but not breached. The garrison is half-starved but still fighting. The civilians are surviving on scraps. The horses have been slaughtered. No choice. They eat too much and provide meat the people need. In the Ottoman camp, the disease is worse. Murad's own physician is treating patients now. Not just common soldiers, officers, high-ranking ones. The army that arrived in May was 60,000 strong. By September, it's maybe 40,000 effective, 20,000 dead, sick, or deserted. The survivors are exhausted, angry, wondering why they're sitting in a disease-ridden camp besieging a fortress that won't fall when they could be anywhere else. The Ottomans try one more major assault. September 15th. Everything they have. Ladders, rams, towers, 5,000 men hitting the walls from 3 sides simultaneously. It starts at dawn. War drums, horns, the sound of thousands of men moving at once. Scanderbeg has been expecting this. You can't hide an assault this big. And he's positioned his best troops at the likely assault points. The first wave hits the eastern wall. Ladders going up, men climbing. Albanian defenders at the top pushing ladders away, dropping stones, stabbing down with spears. The first Ottoman soldier to reach the battlement is Tanush Thopia's spear through the throat. The man falls backward, taking 3 others with him. The ladder goes up again. Another soldier climbs. This one makes it over the wall, gets 2 steps before an Albanian axe splits his helmet. He drops. The man behind him tries to step over the body. Can't. The corpse is blocking the top of the ladder. He hesitates, dies with an arrow through the eye. 20 ladders on the eastern wall, 20 points of contact, men fighting and dying at each one. The Albanian defenders have the advantage, height, cover. The enemy has to expose themselves to climb, but the Ottomans have numbers. Keep sending men, keep pressing. Eventually, exhaustion tips the balance. At the southern gate, the ram is pounding. Each hit shakes the gatehouse. The gate is iron-bound oak, built to withstand this, but nothing withstands forever. Scanderbeg positions 50 men in the gatehouse. If the gate breaks, they fight in the breach. Buy time for reserves to arrive. The ram hits again, and again, methodical, professional. The gate is cracking. The defenders can hear the wood splintering. Another 10 hits, and it's going to fail. Scanderbeg makes a decision, calls for fire arrows. His archers dip arrows in pitch, light them, shoot them over the wall at the ram crew. Not trying to hit men, trying to hit the ram itself, the wooden siege engine that's breaking his gate. The ram is covered in wet hides. Fire protection. Standard. But the hides are drying in the heat, and after 3 months of siege, maintenance is sloppy. 1 fire arrow catches, then another. The ram starts smoking, then burning. The Ottoman crew tries to put it out. Can't. The ram is too big, too committed. They abandon it. The ram burns, still positioned against the gate. The gate is damaged, but holding. On the eastern wall, 1 ladder crew breaks through. 10 Ottoman soldiers make it to the battlement. Establish a foothold. More men climb behind them. This is the critical moment. If they expand the foothold, if more men reach the wall, they can establish a proper breach and pour troops through. Vrana Conti sees it happening, grabs 20 men, charges the Ottoman foothold. No tactics, no finesse, just bodies and violence. The 2 groups meet in a space maybe 10 feet square. Too crowded to use long weapons. Men drop spears, draw knives. The fighting is intimate, men grappling, biting, clawing, stabbing whatever they can reach. Vrana kills an Ottoman soldier with a knife under the ribs, turns. Another soldier grabs him from behind. They go down together, Vrana on bottom, the Ottoman soldier on top, trying to strangle him. Vrana can't reach his knife, can't breathe. His vision is narrowing. He headbutts backward. Feels the Ottoman's nose break. The grip loosens. Vrana rolls, grabs a dropped sword, drives it through the man's throat. The Ottoman foothold collapses. The survivors jump off the wall, 30-foot drop onto rocks. Some survive with broken legs, most don't. The Albanian defenders push the ladders away. The assault breaks. All across the walls, the Ottoman attack is failing. Not because they're not brave, not because they're not skilled, because siege assault is mathematics, and the mathematics are brutal. Every man climbing a ladder is exposed. Every man at the top of a ladder is fighting uphill against a defender with cover. Even with 5-to-1 odds, the defenders have the advantage. By noon, the assault is over. The Ottomans withdraw, leave their dead, maybe 700 Ottoman casualties, 50 Albanian defenders dead. Another 100 wounded. Scanderbeg walks the walls afterward, looking at the bodies, looking at his men. They're exhausted, bloodied, but they held. Vrana Conti approaches, face bruised from the headbutt. They'll try again. Maybe, maybe not. Murad's losing more men to disease than combat. This assault cost him 700. The camp is costing him 100 a day. The math doesn't work. So we just wait? We wait for winter. or for Murad to blink. October arrives, 4.5 months into the siege. The fortress is still standing, barely. Food is almost gone. People are eating grass, boiling leather for the minimal protein. The civilians have started dying, not from violence, from starvation, from disease. The fortress has held, but the people inside it are breaking. In the Ottoman camp, the situation is worse. September and October bring rain, cold rain. The siege camp turns to mud. Disease spikes. Supply lines from the interior are harassed by Albanian guerrillas. Not enough to stop supplies, but enough to make every convoy expensive. And winter is coming. November in the Balkans means snow in the mountains, means impassable roads, means an army that's already sick and exhausted is going to freeze. Murad too calls a war council. October 20th. In his pavilion, his senior commanders gather. They're exhausted too. 5 months of siege, 5 months of watching men die from disease, 5 months of no progress. The question is simple: continue or withdraw? The arguments for continuing. The fortress is weakening. Another month might break them. Withdrawing now means admitting defeat. The arguments for withdrawing: winter is coming. The army is sick. The cost is unsustainable. This fortress has been besieged 4.5 months and hasn't fallen. How many more men die for Albanian rocks? Murad listens, doesn't interrupt, finally speaks. We withdraw, not because we can't take the fortress, because taking it costs more than it's worth. We'll come back in spring, with more men, better supplies, and we'll finish it then. It's framed as strategic calculation. It's actually capitulation, but nobody says that. October 26, 1450. The Ottoman army begins withdrawing, not routing, not fleeing, organized retreat, pack the siege equipment, burn what can't be carried, bury the dead who are still identifiable, leave the rest. From the walls, Scanderbeg watches them go, doesn't celebrate, doesn't even smile, just watches. His garrison is cheering, shouting insults at the retreating Ottomans, throwing stones that fall harmlessly short. Scanderbeg turns away, walks down from the walls, into the fortress. The civilians are crying, some from relief, some from grief. They've lost family members to starvation during the siege. Vrana finds him in the main hall. We won. Scanderbeg shakes his head. We survived. That's not the same as winning. The Ottomans left. For now, they'll be back. Bigger army, better prepared. And we can't survive another siege like this. We lost 800 people. The walls are damaged. Supplies are gone. We need 6 months to recover. They'll give us 3. Vrana doesn't argue, because he's seen the same math. Survival isn't victory. It's just postponement. The butcher's bill is ugly. 4,000 defenders at the start, 3,200 still alive at the end. 800 dead, 500 from combat, 300 from disease and starvation. The civilian population worse. 2,000 civilians sought refuge in the fortress. 1,400 survived. 600 dead, most from starvation. The Ottomans lost more. Exact numbers are unknowable. Ottoman chroniclers don't admit disasters, but modern estimates put casualties at 20,000, most from disease, not glorious, not memorable. Just men shitting themselves to death in a siege camp because empire demands Albanian submission. November 1450. The fortress stands. The walls are pocked with damage from trebuchet stones. The streets are empty because there's no food to trade and people are too weak to socialize. The main square has a mass grave for the siege dead. 600 people in one pit because there's no time to dig individual graves. Scanderbeg orders repairs immediately. Doesn't wait. can't wait. The Ottomans said they'll be back. They always come back, so the walls get patched, new timber for the gates, weapons cleaned and stored, bodies buried properly once there's time. And he writes letters to Venice, to the Pope, to anyone who might send supplies, because the siege proved one thing. The Ottomans can't take Kruja by assault, but they can starve it. And starvation is just a matter of time. The letters are polite, formal, diplomatic, but the subtext is clear. Send food or watch Albania fall. Some respond. Venice sends grain at inflated prices because Venice never misses a profit opportunity. The Pope sends prayers and a small shipment of weapons. Naples sends nothing because Naples is busy with its own problems. It's enough to survive the winter. Barely. December 1450. Scanderbeg stands on the walls, looking east toward Ottoman territory. The view is the same as it was in May when the siege started. Mountains, valleys, no Ottoman banners. He's held this fortress, again, for the third major siege. But he knows the truth. Each siege takes something, lives, resources, will. You can't sustain this forever. Eventually something breaks, not walls, people. And the Ottomans have centuries. He has maybe a decade left if he's lucky. Maybe less if disease or battle or simple exhaustion kills him first. This is victory. It feels like dying in installments. The siege of Kruja in 1450 breaks something in both armies. The Ottomans lose 20,000 men and gain nothing. Scanderbeg loses 800 fighters he can't replace and proves he can survive anything except time, because that's the price the siege reveals. Not casualties, time. Every siege, every battle, every campaign, they don't just cost lives, they cost years, and years are the one resource Scanderbeg can't replenish. The Ottomans can always send another army. He can only live one lifetime. Murad too dies. His son Mehmed takes the throne at 19 years old, ambitious, brilliant, ruthless in ways his father wasn't. Within 2 years, Mehmed conquers Constantinople, the city that withstood Ottoman siege for a century. He brings specialists, engineers, the largest siege cannon ever built. And on May 29, 1453, the walls that protected Byzantium for 1,000 years collapse under Ottoman artillery. The message to Skanderbeg is clear. Mehmed isn't his father. Mehmed solves problems. Mehmed sends an army to Albania. Not to besiege Kruja, he's learned that lesson. To devastate the countryside, burn villages, destroy crops, kill the agricultural base that feeds Albanian resistance. It's strategic starvation, not aimed at the fortress, aimed at everything around it. Scanderbeg can't stop it, can't be everywhere. His forces are spread defending multiple fortresses, and the Ottomans are hitting everything simultaneously. By winter, half of central Albania is burned. The population that survives flees to the mountains or to Venetian coastal cities. The land that Scanderbeg is defending is becoming empty. Battle of Albalena. The Ottomans try again. 80,000 men under Ishak Bey. Scanderbeg has maybe 15,000. He wins anyway, uses the same tactics that worked at Torviol: terrain, false retreat, ambush from concealed positions. Ottoman casualties, 30,000. Albanian casualties, 3,000. It's his greatest tactical victory, the one historians will point to as proof of his genius. And it changes absolutely nothing, because 3 months later, the Ottomans send another army. Smaller, more cautious, and the war continues. That's the pattern. Scanderbeg wins every battle. The Ottomans send another army. He wins again. They send another. Each victory proves he can't be beaten in the field. Each victory costs men he can't replace. The math is slow but inevitable. By 1460, he's 52 years old. Most men that age are planning retirement. Scanderbeg is planning his next campaign because there is no retirement from being the only thing holding an empire at bay. His body is breaking down. Old injuries that never healed properly. Arthritis in his sword hand. Recurring fever. Probably malaria. Endemic in the region. He hides it. Has to. The moment his allies think he's weakening, they'll start negotiating separate peace with the Ottomans. His personal capacity is the only thing keeping the League together. Moise Golemi defects, takes his forces to the Ottoman side. Golemi isn't a minor player. He's one of the original League members, commands maybe 800 men, knows Albanian defensive positions intimately. He guides Ottoman forces through terrain they couldn't navigate alone. Scanderbeg doesn't have Golemi killed. Can't. Golemi is in Ottoman protection now. So Scanderbeg adapts, changes defensive positions, relocates supply caches, assumes everything Golemi knows is compromised. The betrayal costs him 6 months of repositioning and maybe 200 men lost in raids Golemi guided. Venice switches sides, signs a treaty with the Ottomans. Albanian ports, previously Venetian-controlled, are now officially neutral, which means Scanderbeg loses his primary supply route. The Pope sends promises. Naples sends sympathy. Neither sends food. Scanderbeg negotiates with Venice anyway, because he has no choice. Venice wants trade concessions, mining rights, port access. He gives them everything they ask for, gets minimal supplies in return. This is what alliance looks like when you're desperate. You surrender terms and call it diplomacy. Mehmed tries again. Sends Balaban Badera with an army that contemporary sources claim is 150,000 men, realistically probably 60,000, still massive, still overwhelming. They besiege Kruja, again. 7 months this time. Scanderbeg is 60 years old, too old to be commanding siege defenses, too old to be walking walls in winter checking defensive positions, but he does it anyway because there's nobody else. His son Gjergj is 16, smart kid, no military training, no political base, no reputation. Putting him in command would be suicide, so Scanderbeg commands, rations food, executes deserters, manages morale, makes himself visible even when he can barely stand. 7 months. The Ottomans quit in spring 1467 when disease and supply problems make continuing suicidal. They've lost maybe 20,000 men. Scanderbeg has lost 400 defenders. He's defended Kruja successfully for the 4th time, but he's 61 now. His hair is white. His hands shake. He needs help mounting his horse. Summer 1467. Reports of Ottoman troop movements near Lezha, another fortress under threat. Scanderbeg rides out with maybe 2,000 men. Standard relief operation. He's done this 100 times, except this time, halfway through the campaign, the fever comes back, worse than before. He tries to push through it, can't. His officers see him swaying in the saddle, suggest he return to Kruja. He refuses. If he returns sick, people will panic. So he commands from horseback, burning with fever, barely coherent, while his officers handle actual tactics. They lift the siege, drive off the Ottoman force. It's successful, sort of. Everyone can see he's dying. He returns to Kruja in October, doesn't leave the fortress again. The fever never fully breaks. He has good days and bad days. On good days, he walks the walls, checks defenses, writes letters to allies who aren't sending help. On bad days, he stays in bed, burning up, wondering if he'll see spring. January 1468. The bad days outnumber the good now. He's in bed more than out. His wife Donica tends him. His son visits daily. The doctors try everything: bloodletting, herbs, prayers. Nothing works, because malaria doesn't respond to medieval medicine. January 15th, he tries to stand, gets halfway up before his legs give out. His officers catch him, lower him back onto the bed. He fights them, actually fights, trying to shove their hands away, but he has no strength left. The effort leaves him gasping. This is when he knows, not suspects, knows. He's dying, not in battle, not leading a charge, in bed, like a peasant, like anyone. He calls Vrana Conti to his bedside. Vrana's in his 60s too, been with Skanderbeg since the beginning, fought every battle, survived every siege. The two men look at each other, both know what's coming. Skanderbeg's voice is rough, fever-burned. Hold Kruja. That's it. No grand speech, no strategy session, no final wisdom, just hold the fortress. Vrana nods, doesn't promise, because promising would be lying. They both know what happens when Skanderbeg dies. The League collapses, the alliances fragment, Albania becomes Ottoman within a decade. But Vrana says, "We'll try." January 17th, 1468. Scanderbeg dies, not dramatically, not with witnesses recording his final words for history. He just stops breathing. Around midday, in the bedroom where he tried and failed to stand 3 days earlier, his wife is there, his son, a priest, Vrana. They don't announce it immediately. Wait until evening. Give themselves time to secure the fortress, lock the gates, make sure nobody panics before there's a plan. When they finally announce it, bell tolls, public proclamation. The fortress goes quiet, not sad quiet, scared quiet, because everyone understands. The weapon just broke, and weapons are what's been keeping them alive. The funeral is rushed. They bury him in the fortress church. Simple ceremony, no time for elaborate mourning. There are Ottoman spies everywhere, and if word reaches Mehmed too quickly, he'll send an army while the succession is unstable. Gjergj Kastrioti Skanderbeg, 18 years old, no command experience, no political base, is declared Skanderbeg's heir. The nobles swear fealty, all of them lying, all of them already calculating their own survival. Within 6 months, the League of Lasia holds its last meeting. The nobles can't agree on anything. Who commands? Who controls which fortresses? How to split dwindling resources? Gjergj has his father's name, but none of his authority. When he gives orders, people nod and then ignore him. Balaban Pasha invades. Again, Gjergj tries to organize resistance. Can't. The nobles won't commit forces. Some explicitly refuse. Some send token units and withdraw them when fighting starts. Gjergj holds Kruja, barely, but loses everything else. Lasia falls, then Sati, then Dagnam. The fortresses Skanderbeg spent 25 years defending collapse in months, not because the Ottomans are attacking better. Because nobody's defending better. Each fortress that falls prompts another noble to switch sides. By end of year, half the League has accepted Ottoman terms. Gjergj negotiates a truce, surrenders some territory, keeps Kruja and a few surrounding strongholds. It's capitulation dressed as diplomacy, but it buys time. 4 years of peace. 4 years for the remaining Albanians to decide if they're going to keep fighting. Most decide no. The ones who can afford it flee. Thousands of Albanians emigrate to Italy. Venice, Naples. Southern Italy develops significant Albanian communities, the Arbëresha, who maintain Albanian language and culture in exile. Because staying means eventual Ottoman conquest, leaving means surviving. Mehmed has had enough, sends a final massive expedition, not to negotiate, to finish it. The army besieges Kruja one last time. Gjergj is 28, been defending this fortress for 10 years, but he's not his father. doesn't have the tactical genius, doesn't have the reputation, doesn't have the personal authority that kept allies loyal. The siege lasts 5 months. The fortress that withstood 4 sieges under Scanderbeg falls without him, not because the walls are weaker, because the defense is. Gjergj's officers surrender the fortress in June 1478, negotiate terms, safe passage for Gjergj and his family to Naples. The garrison goes free. Civilians become Ottoman subjects. Mehmed accepts. He's won. Albania is his. Gjergj sails to Italy with his family and whatever treasure he could carry, settles in Naples, lives another 30 years, dies in 1508, comfortable, forgotten. His children assimilate into Italian nobility. The Kastrioti name fades. Within 2 generations, nobody remembers that his father once held an empire at bay. Gjergj Fortress becomes an Ottoman administrative center. The church where Scanderbeg is buried becomes a mosque. His grave is destroyed. Ottomans don't maintain Christian shrines. His bones disappear. Rumor says they're taken as relics, proof of conquest, insurance against his ghost. His famous helmet, the goat-horned helmet he wore in battle, ends up in Vienna. Museum piece, trophy. By the 1600s, people forget whose helmet it was. It just becomes Turkish helmet, 15th century unknown provenance. For 4 centuries, Albania is Ottoman, fully integrated. The population converts to Islam, not immediately, not universally, but over generations. By 1800, Albania is more Ottoman than the Ottomans. The language survives. The memory of independence doesn't. Then the 20th century happens. Nations start emerging from Ottoman collapse. 1912, Albania declares independence. 1913, the great powers recognize it. Suddenly, Albania needs a national hero, someone to symbolize resistance, someone who fought the Ottomans and won. They find Scanderbeg, dust off the chronicles, write the histories, build the statues, turn a complicated man, Ottoman-trained general who defected and spent 25 years in survival mode, into the Dragon of Albania, pure resistance fighter, national saint. The statues don't mention that he served the Ottomans for 15 years, that he married an Ottoman woman, that he learned everything he knew from the empire he fought. The statues show a warrior, sword raised, goat-horned helmet, defiant. Communist Albania under Enver Hoxha makes it worse, turns Scanderbeg into pure propaganda, atheist hero fighting religious imperialism, Albanian purity against foreign oppression. They name everything after him: streets, squares, schools. The main square in Tirana gets a massive Scanderbeg statue, 50 feet tall, bigger than life, bigger than truth. And here's the irony. The thing that makes the whole story brutal and funny and sad all at once. Scanderbeg spent 25 years fighting the Ottomans, won every major battle, defended Gjergj through 4 sieges, never lost in the field, died undefeated. And 11 years after his death, everything he fought for was gone, every fortress lost, every alliance broken. Albania Ottoman for 400 years. His son fled to Italy, his bloodline assimilated, his grave destroyed. His victories meaningless in any practical strategic sense. He saved Albania for 1 generation. His generation. The one he lived through. The one he could physically defend through personal military genius. But he built nothing that survived him. No institutions, no government, no training system, no succession. Just a cult of personality that required his personal presence to function. So when he died, it died with him. That's not a failure of character. That's a failure of time, because building institutions takes decades. Skanderbeg didn't have decades. He had one lifetime. And he spent that lifetime fighting, because fighting was the only thing that kept people alive in the present. Building for the future is a luxury you get when you're not desperately surviving the present. But history doesn't care about context. History judges results, and the result is Ottoman Albania for 4 centuries, which means by any practical measure, the Ottomans won. They won slowly. They won expensively, but they won absolutely. So why do we remember Skanderbeg? Why does he get statues? Why do we tell his story? Because he proves something we need proven. That resistance is possible. That one person with skill and will and timing can hold off empire. For a while, not forever, but for long enough to matter to the people who live through it. He didn't save Albania permanently. He saved it for 25 years. 25 years where people weren't Ottoman subjects, where they controlled their own fortresses, where they fought and sometimes won. 25 years of autonomy that wouldn't have existed without him. And that matters. Not strategically, not dynastically, not historically in terms of who controlled what territory in 1500, but it matters to the people who lived it, the soldiers who fought under him, the civilians who sheltered in his fortresses, the children who grew up free and lived to adulthood before the Ottomans returned. That's the victory. Small, temporary, human. Here's what we don't want to admit. Most victories are temporary. Most resistance eventually loses. Most heroes die and their work collapses. History is littered with brilliant people who fought impossible fights and postponed disasters they couldn't prevent. We remember the ones who won permanently, Washington, Bolivar, Ataturk, and forget that they're exceptions. The normal pattern is Skanderbeg: fight hard, win every battle, lose the war anyway. But we need the Skanderbegs, because they prove fighting is worth it even when winning is impossible. They prove that holding the line, even temporarily, gives people life and dignity and choice for the years you can hold it. They prove that one person with competence and courage and tactical genius can change the equation even when the long-term math is brutal. Skanderbeg didn't beat the Ottoman Empire. Nobody beat the Ottoman Empire in 1468. It was the strongest power in Europe. It would dominate the Balkans for another 4 centuries. Fighting it was objectively stupid, but he fought anyway. And for 25 years, he won. And that's worth remembering, not because it changed history, because it changed lives, the lives of people who got to be Albanian instead of Ottoman for one more generation. That's the legacy, not strategic, personal, the lives saved, the years bought, the proof that resistance, even temporary resistance, is better than submission. January 17th, 1468. Gjergj Fortress. A man dying in bed, fever-burned, exhausted, 61 years old, spent 25 years fighting an empire, won 13 major battles, defended his fortress through 4 sieges, never lost, and knowing, absolutely knowing, that when he dies, everything collapses, everything he built, everything he fought for, gone within a decade. Ottoman rule inevitable. His last words, hold Gjergj. They didn't, couldn't, because holding Gjergj required Skanderbeg, and there was only one, and he was dead. That's the tragedy. Not that he died, that he was irreplaceable, that 25 years of brilliant military leadership created 0 institutional capacity, 0 succession, 0 system that could continue without him. One man held off an empire, and when that man died, the empire won. Build institutions or build monuments. You can't build both. Skanderbeg chose glory. Albania got ruins. And 400 years later, they put his statue in the main square anyway, because glory is what we remember. Institutions are what we need, and we always choose to remember the wrong thing. If you made it this far, you've just witnessed the fatal flaw of every irreplaceable leader in history. So here's the question: was Scanderbeg a hero or a warning? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more stories about brilliant people who won every battle and lost everything anyway, there's a whole catalog of history's magnificent failures waiting for you. Next up, the general who conquered half of Asia and died from a nosebleed. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Usually it's dark,